me, that he can't muster the courage to say that now is a disgrace. Beyond that, he's leaving office in disgrace. I mean, you got less than 20% of the American people now that think the country is on the right track. That's a lower number than it even was on Election Day. And what's happened since Election Day? He pardoned his son, Hunter. He commuted the sentences of a bunch of evil killer thugs on federal death row. Not all of them, just the ones that he wanted to.
Oh, Scott Jennings. He ought to get Player of the Year, man. I mean, God dang, is there an award for him whooping these Democrats? Because there's nobody on their channel that can hold him accountable but him. We're going to do this segment for all of you who hung in there with me or have come back to the live stream. We're going to finish this segment with Scott Jennings, our favorite. Now, Scott Jennings, we need to make Scott Jennings like a UFC belt. Like he's the champion of whooping these people on CNN. Scott Jennings single-handedly, them hiring Scott Jennings probably destroyed their ratings because he makes them look so bad on television. And I'm not just saying that because I'm conservative, because some conservatives go in there and lay an egg. Scott Jennings be going there and spanking them. And they paying them to do it. This video is brought to you by Ground.News, brought to you by Ground.News. Ladies and gentlemen, I say this every time I go to Ground.News. Why didn't I come up with this concept? I'd be the richest man in the world. There's no other place that's better to get information that's balanced and give you a balanced perspective about news than Ground.News. Let me just give you an example. The Scott Jennings getting on the news and just whooping CNN like they stole something. This is one of those blind spots, and I'm going to get to it in a minute. You see one leftist organization covering it, and they can't even deny that he's whooping them. It says he's going to leave office in disgrace. It's what Scott Jennings says, carves up CNN panelists. But the leftist article is only one, and they cannot deny that he's whooping them. Let's go to this blind spot real quick, because I think a lot of people get caught up in a blind spot. And this is probably just as important as finding the article you like, is finding the things that you have not been paying attention to. Let's go. See, both sides, it says right here, you got on the left, the conservatives need to be looking at this, but they're not. UK gives Ukraine another $4.5 million to help investigate Russian war crimes. So more and more support from the UK and around the world is going towards Ukraine. And we're not talking about it. I think even in our country, we're giving more money to Ukraine. That's something that conservatives need to look into, because I think it's invaluable to understand the future of the support in Ukraine that I think conservatives are over. Now let's go down here to the side where the left is not talking about. They literally lost this election from their leftist policies, including the transgender stuff. And right here, you don't have a single leftist article or left-leaning article that's writing about the Washington State being sued over sexual assault by a transgender inmate in a women's prison. Nobody's even looking into this at all, because they don't want their audience to know how crazy this stuff has gotten. So that's the gist of the blind spot. So if you're looking for content in a balanced way, you can get it right at Ground.News. I want you guys to go and sign up for the plan that I'm on, which is the unlimited plan, which is the Vantage plan. You can get it now with 50% off. You use my link in the description section, which is Ground.News/Tatum, Ground.News/Tatum. This is the last week, so you have to take advantage of the 50% off. Also, you can gift it this week only to a family member to get 50% off as well. Ground.News/Tatum. Get your news in a balanced way. Roll the clip.
I mean, he should have never run for re-election. Mike is exactly right. When he got asked about regrets, the fact that he didn't say, I regret that 13 American service members lost their lives in Afghanistan, to me, that he can't muster the courage to say that now is a disgrace. Beyond that, he's leaving office in disgrace. I mean, you got less than 20% of the American people now that think the country is on the right track. That's a lower number than it even was on Election Day. And what's happened since Election Day? He pardoned his son, Hunter. He commuted the sentences of a bunch of evil killer thugs on federal death row. Not all of them, just the ones that he wanted to. Didn't even make a principled stand on that. And then he went on vacation, which is where he is right now. This is a failed, disgraced president, And he has never, ever owned up to what happened in Afghanistan and the role that that played in destroying those families' lives and destroying his own presidency.
So I think Donald Trump needs to say, I'm sorry that 1 million people died in COVID while I was telling people to shine light in their bodies and take disinfectant.
That's false.
No, that's exactly what he said. He said you should shine light in your own
Google it after the
body.
show. Again,
right?
I'll go through this with you guys.
Donald Trump should sue him today. Donald Trump, if you're watching this, sue this man. He said that you told people to shine light through their body and take disinfectant. Donald Trump never told nobody to do that. Sue this man. Keep going.
Disinfectant.
All right, we can fact check.
He needs to say he's sorry for that.
He speculated about the effect of light on the virus and disinfectant.
Right. While the doctor stood
Publicly,
behind him.
Speculated about whether
people told us to stand 6 feet apart and wear masks, and that didn't exactly solve anything.
Can you believe this for a minute? We do got a highlight tape of Scott Jennings. I kind of want to finish the year with that little highlight tape so you can see more of it. But let me just say that I just want to point this out real quick before we go to Scott Jennings' highlight tape. Donald Trump had nothing to do with that many people. Like, it boils my blood that they would even utter that. Because Nancy Pelosi said, when Donald Trump, I just think people just don't remember anything. Nick, we got to put together a clip, Dylan. We got to put together a clip of this. When Donald Trump first came out and said, we're shutting down travel to Europe, we're shutting down travel to China, Nancy Pelosi and them came on television and said he's xenophobic and he's a racist.
This is all happening at a time that we're starting to see a message shift here because you're starting to hear the Republicans, especially Trump calling it the Wuhan or the Chinese coronavirus. They're looking for someone to blame.
Concern is growing this morning over an outbreak of a new SARS-like virus in China. At least 6 people have died from the Wuhan coronavirus.
The Wuhan coronavirus.
The Wuhan coronavirus.
The 34-year-old ophthalmologist diagnosed Saturday with the Wuhan coronavirus.
The Wuhan virus.
The Wuhan coronavirus.
The Wuhan coronavirus. What more can you tell us about the similarities or differences between SARS and the Wuhan coronavirus?
The Wuhan coronavirus.
The Wuhan coronavirus in China.
The Wuhan coronavirus.
The Wuhan coronavirus. And the Wuhan coronavirus.
Wuhan coronavirus.
Fears continue to grow over the outbreak of the Wuhan coronavirus.
Wuhan coronavirus.
The Wuhan coronavirus.
The Wuhan coronavirus.
We have new information about how the Wuhan coronavirus is spread.
Tying coronavirus to China and Chinese people isn't just a racist dog whistle. It's a whole racist orchestra. It's a mighty, mighty racist bass tone.
I hear Stephen Miller in this foreign virus setting up travel bans for the outside invasion of the disease. That's not the way.
The Chinese coronavirus that they've been calling it. The first U.S. case of Chinese coronavirus.
The Chinese coronavirus. This is coming as the Chinese coronavirus.
China's coronavirus outbreak.
China's coronavirus.
Outbreak anxiety. The death toll nearly doubles in China's coronavirus outbreak.
China's coronavirus.
Just how bad is China's coronavirus crisis?
China's coronavirus outbreak.
China's coronavirus outbreak.
China's coronavirus outbreak.
China's coronavirus.
China's coronavirus. China's coronavirus.
China's coronavirus.
Concerns about the China coronavirus.
It's going to come across to a lot of Americans as smacking of xenophobia, to use that kind of term.
Racist travel ban is what they claim. Nancy Pelosi said, come down to Chinatown. It's all good. There's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to worry about.
Deal with it. But we do want to say to people, come to Chinatown. Here we are. We're, again, careful, safe, and come join us.
Because she was saying Donald Trump was fear-mongering against Chinese people by shutting down travel to China, which we know that's where the virus came from. She said, come to Chinatown. She was encouraging people during the time in which that we should have probably been distancing or whatever they claimed we were supposed to be doing. And instead, they called him a racist. And now, I swear, I lived through this, and you guys did too. Don't forget it. He started out saying, we're shutting the country down. When we had 1 case in America, Donald Trump shut the country down. He recommended it. Now, you can do whatever you want to do. The president can't shut anything down. The states have the right to stay open if they want to. He recommended it through Dr. Fauci. They shut everything down 2 weeks to slow the spread. They did all this stuff. They said Donald Trump was a racist over it. And then all of a sudden, We know what they did. I can go over this 100 times. I remember doctors were telling me that they were lying on the death certificate. If you had any symptoms of flu-like symptoms, they just said you had COVID. They weren't able to test all these people. They say you had COVID. They take the test. The tests have false positives all the time. All of that is test positive. They never tell you how many people tested negative. They never tell you how many people got it and didn't die. They only tell the death toll. Only the people that died. 5,000 people dying every day, but 200,000 people are totally fine. Then they have the asymptomatic. They tell you to wear a mask, not to wear a mask, social distance, none of that stuff work. It's all fake. They made it all up, just about. And they tell me Donald Trump is the problem. 1 million people died. I don't even think 1 million people died. They full of sugar honey iced tea. Roll the clip, highlight tape of Scott Jennings whooping that. Roll this clip.
Oh, in private meetings, I've seen Joe Biden do cartwheels and handstands while doing trigonometry while solving all the nation's problems. We now know that every single person who said that has been lying to the American people. One day Donald Trump couldn't hold a glass of water and we had like every medical person coming out of the woodwork. Should we have the 25th Amendment? Joe Biden could barely walk up the stairs.
I would argue
no proof that tech companies colluded to do this. This is nonsense, and he knows it. No, I'm sorry.
There was a major institutional effort.
No, there
to
was
suppress
absolutely
this.
dozens and
Was the
dozens
New York
of
Post
them.
thrown off Twitter?
They were, and then they. Scott, let me try again.
The story off Twitter.
Scott,
Let's let
Scott,
Kara finish, 'cause
literally
she's
don't know
actually
what you're
done-
talking
I mean,
about.
she's
So
done
it's
the work.
really hard to deal with you.
She's done the work.
No.
If you called Kentucky Fried Chicken and said, I'd like to interview Colonel Sanders. Now, his face is on the bucket. He doesn't make the chicken anymore. In fact, he's not even alive anymore. This is what the Democrats are asking people to do. Vote for the face on the bucket.
He was fine and he's strong and then he's fine today. Nobody believes that. And I just think at some point, then why isn't he running?
It's organic. The entire Kamala Harris campaign has been organic. And so now we're...
What? Organic. This is the literal most manufactured presidential campaign ever. She didn't even run.
Well, quite a few people will vote for Harris, so I think we should all open up a head examination in doctor's office. We'll have plenty of people to...
in all those categories.
A lot of men think Democrats care more about dudes who want to become women than dudes who just want to be dudes.
Well,
It's pretty apparent the disdain with which they hold half of the country in.
That's crazy, Scott.
I'm sorry. I'm just reading the journalism. I'm pro-journalist here. I'm reading the journalism about Hunter Biden running the ship here.
She's like a true double threat. You know, she's terrible on her feet when she gets unexpected questions, and simultaneously, she can't even answer the expected questions.
You give me too much credit. I wish I had some billionaire friends.
You know, what's a mistake you've made? Nothing. What's a weakness you have? Nothing. What's the first law you want to pass? Nothing. What's a policy difference between you and Joe Biden? Nothing. Over and over and over. Empty, empty, empty. If she were an animal, she'd be a duck-billed platitude.
But look,
It's a total... Or in Walls himself, who gave the most disastrous response to a question about his own dishonesty about being in Tiananmen Square that I've ever heard. Effectively, what he has said is, sorry, guys, I'm too dumb to tell the truth. Fabrications in his own resume. And his answer was essentially, me no understand words good. I mean, he's a buffoon.
Kamala Harris and Tim Walz believes is that it's none of your business what women do with their body. And so stay out of our doctor's offices and stay out of our bed.
Well, I guess I'll have to speak up for the babies. They're not here to speak for themselves. Lord have mercy.
Oh, Scott Jennings. He ought to get Player of the Year, man. I mean, God dang. Is there an award for him whooping these Democrats? Because there's nobody on their channel that can hold him accountable but him. Anyway, all right, y'all. I've been running my mouth long enough. Hope you enjoy the show.